Hey, Dirt Farmer Jay here from dirtfarmerjay.com. One of the things that can really be discouraging in your yardscape is when pocket gophers start destroying all the beautiful work that you and your family have worked to create. Well, stay tuned and I'm going to show you how to control those pesky critters. Hey, Dirt Farmer Jay here from dirtfarmerjay.com. You know, when you have a nice place, you're going to have just things in nature that kind of do battle with you. Well, one of those that can be really discouraging is rodents that dig around, and specifically gopher type of rodents. Where we are, we deal with the pocket gopher. Now, the pocket gopher is really a real pain because not only does it dig underground anywhere from 6 to 12 inches down typically, as it looks for forage, but it also puts these really obnoxious mounds where they're excavating the tunnels below, and it can be right in the middle of a beautiful lawn or along a sidewalk or in one of your flower beds or at the base of a tree. And you can't just leave these things alone. They don't know such a thing as moderation, and they'll get worse year after year. And in the cool months, when you think they're gone, they're not. They've just gone deeper and they continue to do damage. So you got to learn how to control them. Now, full disclosure, unlike Hollywood, where you've seen an action film or something where animals are used, and they make the disclaimer, no animals were harmed during the creation or the filming of this film, we can't claim that. In fact, it's the other side. If you came for this to look and see how you can capture these and make a pet out of them, you need to turn this off now, because indeed, gophers were harmed during the filming of this or shortly thereafter. So you've been warned. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that are readily available for you in your arsenal to combat these pesky little friends. Here we go. Now, it looks like I'm doing a commercial here for either Amdrol or Victor. This just happens to be the products that are available at our local big box store, the orange one. Now, you can get these at the blue one and Menards and other things, or Ace Hardware, True Value, and so forth. These are fairly common devices and products that you can get. And let's just describe what each one of these are briefly, and then we're going to go out in the field and take a look at what it looks like in the field, and I'm going to show you how to locate their burrows so that you can apply or make use of these different products. Well, let's go ahead and start all the way over here on your right. This is a box trap. Now, this one's done by Victor, who you may have seen before, very common manufacturer of mouse traps. But Victor also does one called the black box. And as you can see, here it is. There are also wood versions of this, which I have several as well. But I wanted to give you a really nice clean one so you could see it for this episode. So this is called the black box. And how this works is once you uncover the burrow, or not the burrow, once you uncover the run, the main runs, and we'll show you how to locate that, once you open that up, the gopher really doesn't like that. They're going to come investigate it if it's an active run, and usually they are. And you're going to place this at the end of the exposed run and arm the trap. You'll notice on the other end of this trap, this hole is left open, and it does a couple things. One, it allows sound to be transmitted into the burrow, which drives them nuts. Also, air pressure changes, air sounds of breezes, and light. And so what's going to happen is when this is set correctly and buried correctly with that part left open, the gopher will come up to investigate it. When it does, it's going to trigger it and the trap's going to fire. To arm this, what you're going to do, and this is going to take both hands, you've got to pressure this down. As you can see, there's a lot of pressure on that. That loop drops down, the arm comes over the top, and then it is put under the bar right there. And when the gopher comes in, it's got to go through the loop. I don't even like putting my finger in there because I've had one of these go off before. And it's going to touch that bar as it's investigating the hole here. And when it does, with great pressure, this is going to come up, and that's the demise of that rodent. When you go out to look, you can see when this is fired, the soil's displaced that you put over the top of it. You remove it, drop out the gopher, do it again to assure that you have cleared the colony or that run. So that's what this one does. I'm going to go and unarm it on purpose here, just so it doesn't set off someplace or I reach in there. The second kind is also by Victor, but I've seen this done by other people or other companies as well. This trap actually fits into the burrow, and this little pressure plate holds these barbs and their arms open in the run so that the animal comes across, hits the end. Again, it's a pincher action. These are okay. I have some. There's a couple reasons I don't use them very often. Number one, they're very light. Sometimes the animal isn't entirely killed instantly, and so it drags it back in the hole. It's probably not the most humane, but it will take out the animal. Also, sometimes you lose the trap because it's taken back into the run. And you can put a stake above ground and tie a piece of rope or chain to it. But then I've seen other animals drag these out, like a coyote, a skunk, something like that, to eat the rodent that's caught in there. And so it's kind of a messy proposition. You can use these. They're inexpensive. They will work. And we'll show you again how to place them. The next item is a bait product. This, when you say bait, whether it's used for mice or you're doing it for other items, like for instance bait you've heard for snails, you're actually putting a product out that the animal or the organism mistakes for something else it's attracted to eat. And in this case, they will carry the bait back or eat it right there. And it's a poison that is kills the animal. It works very well if it's placed in the correct manner, and we'll show you that in a little bit. But one of the downsides of this is secondary poisoning. So secondary poisoning includes something digging up the animal or the animal somewhere near the surface, and you end up with that animal eating the poison gopher and therefore it getting sick as well. A product that we use a lot is this smoke type of bomb, or it's a gasser. And there's different brands of this, but the idea is that when this is lit, there's a fuse in it. When this is lit, and I'll show you this, I actually keep these in a kit where I have a canister, a little metal canister with these in here. The fuse is integrated in, and I keep the matches right there. When these are lit and it's inserted into the burrow once we expose it and then covered over with soil, this emits a very prolific, copious amounts of smoke that is toxic to the animals, and it does two things. One, it takes them out, and number two, it buries them in place because they're going to go as deep as they can into their burrow. You're not going to encounter them on the surface. The disadvantage of these kind of products is you're not quite sure you got them instantaneously, so there's a little bit of, if you want to call it, delayed gratification or verification. But activity, as it diminishes, you know that you're being effective. Whereas traps, you know whether you got the animal or not because you actually unload it. But we prefer to use this a lot. So that's kind of a brief overview of these products. Let's go ahead and take a view out in the field, and we're going to see how you're going to place each one of these. Some I'm going to do a demonstration. We'll actually light one of these, show you what that looks like, and then you can make a decision which fits best for you. One other thing, it is illegal to use these kind of products to kill protected species in your state. It's up to you to look in your state or where you live in the world to make sure that there's not a problem with using these kind of products. Where we live, gophers are not endangered and they are not protected. As a matter of fact, they're viewed just as much like rats would be, or mice, where they're being destructive to the crops or to your landscape, and therefore are a candidate for treatment. So let's go take a look. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to head out into the field here. This is undeveloped area of our property, but you're going to see a little bit of a colony forming here where the gophers are digging up different areas. Now, something that's interesting about the gophers, if there's a lot of forage, a lot of things to eat, they're going to do a lot of activity in a very short area. If they have to go on a search to find items, then you're going to find that the burrows are long runs, and the exit points where they excavate that you see on the surface are further apart because they got to go a longer distance to get something to eat. Well, let's go on out here and see what we see. You can see these different mounds where there is a lot in one area. This is a bit older, here's a little fresher, but there's a lot of activity going on around this field. But look at this one. This one, everything's powdery. This dude is probably today, maybe even hours old. We have a pretty dry wind here going, so that it's gonna dry out pretty quickly. If you look over here, you can see that's probably a day or two old where water has fallen on it. Now, the cool thing about these animals is they're pretty predictable. What you are actually seeing is an excavation of soil. So as they dig along, and they're kind of interesting animals. They have these constantly growing teeth, as all rodents do. The only way that they can get rid of the teeth or to keep them short is by using them on abrasive surfaces. And in this case, they're actually using it to excavate soil, so the end of the teeth keep wearing off. How do they stop from getting dirt in their mouth? Well, they have special formation or lips that close behind the teeth, leaving the teeth exposed, so they actually use it as an excavator, okay? Second thing, they have pouches in here, and that's the reason they're called a pocket gopher, that they actually, as they forage, will store the food in their mouth in these pouches, and then they'll end up taking it back to the main burrow where they create their food stores. But when they burrow, they've got an emptied soil somewhere, and here's what is going on. What you see here is not where anything is going on, it's beside it. And if you notice the shape, it's elongated this way, and over here you can see it a little bit more. The direction the animal was pitching soil was like this, meaning that where it excavated from was over here. And you'll always see at 90 degrees to where they were pitching is where the main burrow is. And here it looks like we probably have an arc going here where they turned here because the same thing. Notice the pitch was back this way, meaning the plug right here down to here, and it's a shape like this. You've got the soil at the top, the mound this way, and then you have this going down or to 45 or an arc down to the lower main run that's perpendicular to this pile of dirt. And they do that pretty consistently, and it's about 8 to 12, about 12 inches. I always go about 12 inches back, 12 inches down to hit the run. So we're gonna see if this really works, if I'm just blowing sunshine on a kind of cloudy day at you, okay? Let's watch and see what happens. All right, so let's look where we're gonna dig. Right here is the excavation plug where they've plugged it. We're going back this way, so we're about 12 inches here to here and about 12 inches down. Let's see what we hit and how good we are. All right, so we've discovered a couple of things here. Out in the field here, they've changed their behavior just slightly, and here it is. Instead of digging as deep, they're finding a lot of forage very close to the surface. So where they're digging is only that far down below. You can see this came out about in here. It's a soft area right there. There it is. Just poking my finger in. And there's one going towards you right here. I can put my finger in there and dig it in. And there's one here. So what we're gonna do is expose the tunnel. Once that's open, then we have some options here of what we're gonna do. So let's show you that. All right, so let's talk about applying each one of these as we go. There's a lot of good information right on the can itself, but the basic idea is to get the material in the burrow as close as you can to where the animal's gonna access it. And you don't want to cover it with soil. So in this case, I would either use some kind of long-handled spoon or a ladle or some kind of device, maybe some PVC pipe with an elbow, and I would get the material back in the line or the run and then cover this back up. So then the animal comes up and accesses it, and I can do it on either side. If I didn't want to unbury this, let's say it's in a yard, you can use a stake, like a form stake, and a hammer and punch down, and you'll feel it give, and you can round that out, fill it, and then put cap over it. And that instruction's on here and probably on the company's website. Secondly, if you're going to use a box trap like this, what we're going to do is we're going to place the box down in here, and I need to open this just a little bit. All right, so now we have a straight line into the burrow or on the main run right here, and this is quite sizable and open. There's nothing here. So what we would do is go ahead and set the trap, which I'm not going to do, but you would set it, very carefully set it in against the run like this, leaving that hole that's open in the end. This is pressed down. Then you would put soil over the top of it on this side to keep it wedged. The animal's going to come up, investigate the hole, set off the trap. You would pull this out with the animal trapped in between here and the top of the trap, quite dead, by the way. Dislodge the trap, do it again, or do it on the other side. So that's how you use this. All right, let's go ahead and use the gasser. And I'm gonna do one on each side because I really don't know where these animals are. But I know this field will just keep growing and growing. And when we were walking out of this field, the lumpiness in this field from years of this is quite evident. They don't stop, they just keep multiplying and foraging and so forth. So you have to make a determination of what's the level of control you want to apply. In this case here, we're going to go ahead and use 2 gassers, one for each side, but I'm going to need to get some soil here because it's going to take a significant amount to pack that back in, and we can actually use some of what the animals left here before. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get the fuse out, and I get those as straight as possible. Make sure they're attached well, and these are. You can see it's hanging in there very well. Since we're going to do a double application, one to each side, again, we're not sure where the animals are, so this is cheap insurance. We now have these. Once I light it, what I'm going to do is insert it into the tunnel and then fill it very quickly. Then I'll step and repeat, do the other side. So here we go. Okay, so there is a prolific amount of gas that's being released into that chamber right now. We're going to go ahead and do the second thing. Now, just for posterity and because we love you so much, we're going to waste one. I'm going to put one out here just so you can get an idea of the amount of smoke that's being released. You ready? Here we go. Once that hits it, if you see the camera drop, that means that Rob inhaled too much. Okay, it's going to start lighting up. Oh, that's interesting. There we go. So I'm tasting just a little bit of sulfur in my mouth. That kind of, you can see that amount of smoke is all being injected into the chambers there and then sits in the chamber for a long time because it's not dissipated as we're seeing right now. So quite effective. Again, you're going to see the kill by the results around that all of a sudden the activity starts slowing down. Well, I trust that you found this to be helpful. If you have some insights you'd like to offer to your fellow viewers, why don't you post them in the comment section below and we'll make sure to respond to you. And anything that we use in a future episode, we'll make sure to give you the mention for it and the credit for it. If you found this to be helpful, why don't you like it? And better yet, subscribe to our channel, ring that bell so that you'll be instantaneously notified of any new content that we publish on approximately a weekly basis. Thank you for watching. Until the next time, this is Dirt Farmer Jay with a lot less pocket gophers on his property.